What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Deneen, and this is my review of Monday Night Raw, which took place October 30th in Greenville, South Carolina. To all my ghouls and goblins out there, happy Halloween. Have a great day, great night. Be safe, enjoy yourselves. And look, if you're going as a wrestler, please drop it in the comments. You know I look forward to that kind of stuff. Let me know what wrestler you were. Or even if you're not a wrestler, it's disappointing, but you could go in there and in the comment section and let me know what you went as. You know, me, at least 1/3 of my life, I was a wrestler for Halloween. Shoot, sometimes, even when it's not Halloween, I dress up as a wrestler. There's been a few times I just dressed up as the Ultimate Warrior or the Undertaker, perhaps. But as a kid, I was the Big Boss Man for the very first time. First time I was ever a wrestler. And then I was The Rock. Then I was Kane. Then I was the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Then I was the Big Dog, Roman Reigns, Crow Sting, Wolfpack Sting. I was even the Tribal Chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns, twice. So, needless to say, I enjoy this kind of stuff. But please, don't be shy. Let me know what you were. Now, look, this show, we got a lot to talk about from start to finish. We're going to go over this episode of Monday Night Raw. And then following the review, very briefly, I'm not doing predictions or anything like that. It's going to be a very quick with quotation marks, air quotes. I'm going to be going over NXT Halloween Havoc Night 2 taking place later tonight. I believe that's a 7-match card. And if it's anything like last week's Night 1 of Halloween Havoc, then we are in for a good one. Now, this Saturday in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, we have Crown Jewel taking place. Now, on this episode of Raw, we found out there's going to be one pre-show match, and that's going to be Sami Zayn versus JD McDonagh. And I believe the other 7 matches will be on the main card, so we'll go over that as well. And that card is really shaping up to be something special. I'm telling you, man, this card is going to be so good for Crown Jewel. It's like leave something for Survivor Series, especially if we're not getting Roman Reigns on that Survivor Series card, which it seems like the news the past couple of days was Roman's taking off yet again. What's going on here? We may not see him till the Royal Rumble, at least as far as having a match or potentially a title defense. So look, we'll get to all that towards the end of the show. But right now, let's get to this review of Monday Night Raw. So the show opens up with the WWE Women's World Champion, Rhea Ripley, Mommy, as Dominik refers to her as, and of course, Dominik came out with her as well as JD McDonagh, the unofficial member of Judgment Day. Rhea Ripley gets in the ring, gets on the microphone, and she reminds us that Judgment Day run the show and says Dominik will put Ricochet down tonight and that JD is going to remind Seth Rollins exactly what it feels like to be an enemy of the Judgment Day. She goes on to say Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins have to decide who wants to win and who wants to get crushed under the Judgment Day's boot. Ripley has a tall task ahead of her at Crown Jewel. She's in the Fatal 5-Way match taking place Saturday against the likes of Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and who am I missing here? Raquel Rodriguez. So it's some stiff competition, and I'm really looking forward to this match. Truly am. So she's really in for a tall task, like I said. But she says she's going to prove why she's the most dominant woman in all of WWE this Saturday. Now, she gets interrupted by Sami Zayn. His theme music hits. Sami gets in the ring. Sami apologizes, so to speak, for coming out uninvited, but he's sick of hearing Rhea Ripley talk about power and how Judgment Day runs this show. He says her game is oppressing people with her power, and that his name isn't Sami Zayn, but rather it's rebellion and resistance, and that he'll fight Judgment Day 1-on-1, 1-on-2, 1-on-3, 1-on-4, 1-on-5, as long as there's a breath of air in his body. He will fight Judgment Day and everything they stand for until they are no more. Rhea goes on to say that doesn't matter and they don't need the numbers game for him, so she proposes a match later tonight with Damian Priest. Dominik gets on the mic and asks why they don't take care of Sami right now. Ricochet then makes his way to the ring. Now, JD McDonagh, he went for a dive. Ricochet ducked him. Dominik tried to sneak attack Ricochet, but Ricochet turned right around. Dom falls to the mat in disbelief. Can't believe how quickly Ricochet turned around. And you should know this. There's one thing about Ricochet. He has those cat-like instincts. And then their match would then shortly follow after this whole segment. But look, this was a very good opening segment. I loved everything from everybody. Rhea Ripley showing her dominance, not just as a wrestler, but on the microphone. She's gotten so much better on the mic in the past year, especially joining Judgment Day, and her confidence is through the roof at this very moment in time. So that was good stuff. So here we have this match, opening match for Monday Night Raw. We had Ricochet going up against the NXT North American Champion, Dirty Dom Mysterio. Ricochet was wearing these pink pants, and to be honest with you guys, it kind of reminded me of something that the Acclaimed would have in their closet, right? Bowens or Max Caster, even Daddy S. And it was kind of funny, too, because the R for Ricochet's name kind of resembled scissors. Maybe I was looking a little too much into it, but I said these very easily could be something that the Acclaimed will be rocking on any given night. So it's eerily similar. Anyway, quality match for the most part, but per usual, the inevitable took place. Shockingly, Judgment Day got involved. God forbid one of them just have a straight up honest fight. So here we are. Rhea Ripley runs interference while the referee tries controlling her. Meanwhile, JD McDonagh also tried interfering with Ricochet while Dom took advantage. Dom rolls up Ricochet, grabs the tights, and while putting his boot on the middle rope, he secures the victory. Dom Mysterio defends his title, by the way, tonight at NXT Halloween Havoc against Nathan Frazier. That should be a really good one. Hoping Nathan Frazier wins that match. But like I said last week on my review of NXT Night 1 Halloween Havoc, highly doubt Dom is going to lose that match because of stuff like this. As long as Rhea Ripley's by his side and has that insurance policy or the possibility of JD McDonagh or anybody for that matter from Judgment Day coming out at some point in time, he's as good as gold and will have the gold and will retain. But nonetheless, this match was all right. It was pretty good until the end of obviously what transpired. So next up, we had a DIY video package. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano teaming up on Monday Night Raw for the first time in over 3 years since their NXT days. And most of us wondered, would we ever see this duo on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown as a singles, but especially as a tag team? And here we are. It's a beautiful thing when Triple H is fully in charge of creative. So this is great. Great to see. Hopefully one day they'll be tag team champions. And from what I saw on Monday Night Raw, especially going up against the likes of Imperium, it's looking pretty promising that one day they will hold some gold. So let's hope for the best there. But we'll get to that match a little bit later in the show. Now, throughout the night, we got video packages from all the competitors in the Women's World Championship Fatal 5-Way 4-Crown Jewel. And it started with Raquel Rodriguez, then Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and of course, last but certainly not least, the WWE Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley we heard from. Now, this was staggered all throughout the show from hour 1 all the way to the very end of nearly the very end of hour 3. So there was no need for me to keep interjecting and saying, oh, this is the when she spoke and she spoke and she spoke. They all basically said what they've accomplished and what they're setting out to do at Crown Jewel to get the victory against these 4 other women. Personally, I'll just say this. I think Rhea Ripley will retain her Women's World Championship. I think it's going to be a great showcase for all these women at Crown Jewel. So here we have Alpha Academy's Chad Gable and Otis with Maxine Dupree and Akira Tozawa by their side, going up against the Creed brothers, Brutus and Julius, with Ivy Nile by their side. They weren't referred to as Diamond Mine as far as I recall, but they were the Creed brothers, of course, from NXT, and I'm pretty sure they're still NXT exclusive. I don't believe this is a full-time move just yet to Monday Night Raw. Maybe it is. But anyway, the way this match came about was apparently over the weekend, Chad Gable put out a tweet that was an open challenge. And I have the exact tweet here. And Chad Gable wrote, Alpha Academy is feeling on top of the world after wrecking shop for 4 days straight in Germany. Master Gable has decided to ride this wave of momentum, and after an Alpha Academy open challenge in all caps to any team looking for an opportunity this Monday on Raw, step up and shoosh. His little signature there. So now Julius Creed responded with open challenge Monday, tables, ladders, and scares Tuesday. Let's have some fun. And so they answered the call. Of course, he's referring to the match also they have on NXT later tonight that we'll get to in a little bit against Humberto and Angel. That should be a great one as well. Pulling double duty. They're not the only ones. There was at least there was 2 other matches that we're going to see competitors that were on Monday Night Raw that will also be on Halloween Havoc later tonight as well. So we're jumping mid-match here. Brutus slams Chad for a near fall. Otis body slams both Brutus and Julius. We have a short arm lariat into a stinger splash for Otis. Brutus later goes up to the second rope, but Otis catches him into a World's Strongest Slam. Julius, however, breaks it up with a 450 splash. Chad Gable breaks that up with a moonsault. There's so much going on, as you can tell. Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile get into it on the outside. Akira Tozawa tries to piece things up between the two. Ivy Nile hits him with the German suplex. Julius with the blind tag. Otis is looking for a Vader bomb, but Creed comes behind him. Electric chair to Otis. Brutus heads up top. Brutus bomb. Doomsday device. 1, 2, 3. Creed brothers win their Raw debut. I was honestly surprised. I thought Alpha Academy would come out on top. I did think it was going to be a very competitive match. Don't get me wrong. I did think it was going to go down to the bitter end for the Creed brothers, but I did not think they were going to secure the victory. So, hey, good for them. It was very nice showing for those that don't watch NXT and are not familiar with the Creed brothers. Of course, Ivy Nile was overjoyed for them. They're like brothers to her. And I'm also glad to see that they brought Ivy Nile with them. Now, look, I don't think they're officially members of the Monday Night Raw roster, but it looks like whenever they do go to Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, whenever that time may be, hopefully they'll be bringing Ivy Nile with them. And look, she could wrestle. And she could also be the manager. So I think it works out both ways for her. And I think that is honestly best. Similar to Zelina Vega over the years, right? Whether it was with Andrade or Angel Garza, or even, Austin Theory's part of that for a little bit. Of course, she's with the LWO now. That manager, valet type of deal, as well as wrestling. And I think that's also going to be very beneficial, as it has already been for Maxine Dupree with the Alpha Academy. So that's a very good look. So I'm glad to see they kept her as part of this whole thing as well. Both teams looked great. Again, Creed Brothers, for those that are unfamiliar, I know watching NXT the last couple of years, seeing them on NXT the last few years, how much better they've gotten. They've always been good, but they've really improved their presence. Even on the microphone, they're not bad. At least I enjoy Julius a little more than Brutus overall. I think we always have that discussion, right? That debate of if one of the members of the tag team were going to go into singles, who would be the one that would thrive? We say Montez Ford when we talk about the Street Profits, right? And I would say Julius Creed. No knock to Brutus, just like Angelo Dawkins, he could do his thing too. But if I had to pick one, that's who I would go with. I think he has a promising future in tag and singles. So yeah, definitely good stuff. Now post-match, Otis and Gable raised the hands of the Creed brothers in victory. So some good sportsmanship we saw there. And although these four men seem to be on the same page at the end and ended on a good note, I wouldn't be surprised to see Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile have a match in the very near future on Raw, maybe in the coming weeks sometime. It seems like they're possibly still at odds from all the stuff that was going on outside of the ring during the course of this match. So we'll see where that leads. Now we're going to a backstage segment with the Judgment Day. This was actually very good for a couple of reasons. Now Priest and Finn are hanging out when trick-or-treaters knock on their door. Who is it? None other than the New Day, dressed up as the Judgment Day, or as they refer to themselves, the New Judgment Day. Kofi Kingston was dressed as Damian Priest, and Xavier Woods was dressed as Dirty Dom Mysterio. They were disappointed that they don't have any candy. The Judgment Day didn't have anything for them. Now Rhea and Dom return backstage. Xavier hits on Rhea Ripley before Kofi pulls him along. Damian was salty about not being out there to help Dominik earlier, and Rhea tells him they need to focus on the rest of their business. Now Damian Priest says he might want to cash in at Crown Jewel, and they're all supposed to be equals. Priest then sarcastically says, did he miss a meeting where they all decided on matches for one another? As Rhea Ripley decided on a match for Damian Priest earlier in the night in that opening segment where she set up a match between Sami Zayn and Damian Priest. So Rhea says the reason she made the match between Damian Priest and Sami Zayn is because Damian Priest is the punishment of the Judgment Day. That was a good play on words by Rhea Ripley too, because prior to Damian Priest's WWE run, his name was Punishment Martinez. So well played. I picked up on that. And he will take care of people that stand in their way. So that's why, that was her justification. And it seemed like he was kind of like, all right. He accepted the explanation and wants to make tonight about Judgment Day running the show entirely. Starting off the 9 o'clock hour, we had Miz TV with the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, Gunther. But it wasn't that simple. Where was Gunther? Miz introduced him twice, didn't come out. Miz asks if he has to speak German. Would that work? Cue the other two members of Imperium, Ludwig Kaiser, Giovanni Vinci. And Ludwig tells Miz that the ring general isn't going to come down here just because he's told. They say Miz is everything wrong with the sport today, and he is also a clown. The A-lister did fire back that he's been a lot of things, but never a sidekick or a third wheel. Obviously referring to Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci. Now, much to all of our surprise, Giovanni Vinci got on the microphone and he asks The Miz if he was Maurice's sidekick on Total Divas, and The Miz mocks him for speaking. He even tells the crowd to give Giovanni Vinci a round of applause for actually saying something on the microphone, and he wishes he could be with someone as hot as his wife Maurice. And why is Kaiser letting him talk anyway? Giovanni replied with, he'll talk when he likes. However, Ludwig tells him he in fact only speaks when he or Gunther tell him to. And this was just when I was getting interesting. We've seen this tension for weeks, even months now, between Ludwig Kaiser and his tag team partner, Giovanni Vinci, even Gunther. It seems like Imperium's going to split sooner than later. Anyway, at this moment in time, they were saved by the bell, I suppose. Gunther's music hits. Gunther gets in the ring and tells The Miz he's not his guest and he came here only to make two things clear. First, it's the year 2023 and he's seriously trying to run a talk show. Second, this ring is sacred and everything Miz does is beneath him. In fact, Miz is beneath him and he does not respect The Miz. Miz replied with, He interviewed an invisible John Cena a month ago that was actually more entertaining than Gunther, and whether it's movies, TV, or in the ring, he's the biggest star WWE has. The ring general says that's his problem. It's in the ring that matters, and that's why he's a talk show host, and Gunther is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. Now, The Miz says he can be serious when he wants, like when he beat Randy Orton for the WWE Championship, when he beat John Cena in the main event of WrestleMania, when he won his second WWE Championship just a couple of years ago, and when he made the Intercontinental Championship the most relevant title in all of WWE. Now, I don't know if I would go as far as to say that, but I will say more times than not, because Miz is a multi-time Intercontinental Champion, I've enjoyed his runs as the IC champ. They've been really good, especially, was it 6-7 years ago? Him and Dolph Ziggler had a very notable feud that lasted through the course of a couple pay-per-views, which were very, very enjoyable. So he's done his thing with that title specifically. And he has no problem doing it again, The Miz says to Gunther. And Gunther says The Miz is all about creating memorable moments. So why not create a moment he'll always remember tonight? Kaiser picks up a jack-o'-lantern off the table and smashes it. Gunther then asks The Miz what is he going to do about it as Ludwig continued smashing this whole set of Miz TV. Miz then attacks Imperium, but he's cut off, and they leave him laying in the ring. So Gunther then asks The Miz, who do you think you are? Because you're not in our league. And then Miz got up, attacked him, only to be cut off yet again, dropped by a big boot. And that was pretty much that. As far as that segment was concerned, it was pretty good. It was much better than I anticipated, if I'm being honest. So we go backstage. Miz confronts Raw General Manager Adam Pearce over what just took place and asks if he's going to let Imperium get away with it. He demands a title match, but Pearce asks why he should get one, and The Miz runs off all his credentials, his whole list. Pearce says he can't just give him a title match, but he can give him a shot at one against Bronson Reed. Reed then shows up and asks The Miz if he has a problem with that, but Miz backs down and says he'll take the title from him if need be. Now, what's ironic about this little bit is when The Miz initially walked back, even before this backstage segment, a DIY was coming out, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano. And if you remember why this is so ironic, when Tommaso Ciampa made his main roster debut last year on Raw, who did he align with? He aligned with The Miz. And then when Bronson Reed made his Monday Night Raw debut many months ago, what was it, tail end of 2022 or so, it was in an effort to help The Miz win a match against Dexter Lumis. So it's just pretty funny that in a matter of seconds he crossed paths with Tommaso Ciampa and Bronson Reed, who he's no longer on good terms with, of course. But those were the two guys that initially came to Raw to help The Miz out in some way, shape, or form. So next up, we saw the reunited DIY make their way to the ring. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano versus Imperium's Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci. I feel like it's been a while since we've seen Ciampa wear actual long tights. He usually comes out in the, trunks, typically, like Johnny Gargano, but he pulls it off well. I got to be honest there. So mid-match, Kaiser hit a tilt-a-whirl slam, tagged Da Vinci. Gargano low bridges both men out of the ring, crawled to the tag, but does not secure the tag. DDT on Vinci, clears a path, hot tag to Ciampa. Ciampa charging lariats, duck under, double lariat, takes both men out, whip across, Luthez press into mounted punches on Kaiser, ripcord elbow, inverted DDT, cover for the two. Short while later, discus lariat takes Ciampa off his feet, tag Da Vinci, thinking the Imperial bomb, but Ciampa back body drops and Gargano slides in with a kick. Now this is where we wrap up here. Ciampa and Vinci trade pins, trade strikes, whip reverse, nobody home on the moonsault, running knee connects, tags Gargano, DIY connect with meat in the middle on Giovanni Vinci for the win. Of course, post-match, Kaiser, per usual lately, looks disgusted with his tag team partner Giovanni Vinci for eating the pin. And this was a very good match. Good for DIY. This is a great way to return. And it's been over 3 years since they've tagged, since their NXT days. Started off on the right foot with the victory. And again, like I said earlier in the show, I could definitely see them with some tag team gold in the near future. Maybe not before year's end because, I know it's the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions right now, Judgment Day. Not to say they can't beat them, but I don't know if it's going to be once the tag titles are split, one on SmackDown and one on Raw, which I think a lot of us want, or maybe it's both. If maybe they'll just merge both and just make it one. Who knows what the plan is in the foreseeable future with these tag titles. But regardless if they split them or not, I certainly see them around the waists of DIY in 2024 at some point in time. Hopefully before one of them turn on each other. That'd be terrible. I'd hate to see them go without a tag title run as DIY in this reuniting of sorts. Now, much like weeks prior, we get a pre-taped promo from Shinsuke Nakamura about how he's looking for his next sacrifice to step forward and awaken him. Now, following that, the internet was buzzing, saying it's got to be CM Punk. He's got to be this mystery opponent, whenever that should be. If it's before Survivor Series, at Survivor Series, after Survivor Series, whenever it is. And so, look, I'm personally not ruling out the whole CM Punk bit. I know it was, put to rest a couple of weeks ago that WWE was no longer interested, or CM Punk said he's doing this right now, or his dog's recovering from whatever. But, we'll see what happens. We won't know until, we're a month or two away from now, right into the early new year. I'd say if we don't see CM Punk by Royal Rumble, it's probably not looking like CM Punk is going to be joining WWE. So we'll leave it at that. But again, very good segment with Shinsuke Nakamura. It's been enjoyable these last couple of weeks. This vicious heel that he's become over the last month or two, right? And so we'll see. Next up here, we have a very funny moment in time. Maybe not so funny for Candice LeRae, but Michael Cole apparently was stuck in 2008, says his broadcast colleague Wade Barrett, after mistakenly calling Candice LeRae Candice Michelle prior to her video package airing. Now, that video package was followed by a Xia Li video package as well. And I must say, I love the overall emphasis of these video packages that we've been seeing recently, specifically on this episode of Monday Night Raw, at least as far as the women are concerned. They're doing a very good job at reintroducing a lot of these women that we haven't seen on WWE TV, like both of them, Candice LeRae and Xia Li. A lot of people are not familiar with them because we usually don't see them outside of backstage segments, right? So it's very good. It's again, giving them a chance to be reintroduced. Not saying that people and fans in general are going to absolutely care about them, but it's giving them an opportunity, a chance, and so they're not just waltzing out there and people are like, well, who the hell are they? Because the average fan that's not watching or has not watched NXT from the past several years, or haven't seen them in the ring the very few times that they've been on TV the last couple of years on SmackDown or Raw, are not familiar with Candice LeRae or Xia Li's work. So they're giving them a fair shot. So Candice LeRae was hammering away at Xia Li until the referee warns her to back off. I did not mean to start rhyming. I do apologize. We have a snapmare into a step-up senton, Xia to the floor, and she trips Candice up. Hits her with strikes on the apron before tripping her up in the ring skirt and landing a brutal knee. Now we're back inside the ring. We had a boot and elbow, schoolboy pin for two, jumping knee from Lee, sets up a roundhouse kick. No cover. The referee checks on Candice LeRae, who slowly gets back to her feet. However, she stumbles back down and into the corner. Xia Li, tired of waiting, the referee backs her off and calls the match. Xia wins due to referee stoppage. LeRae unable to continue with this match. She looked dizzy. She looked out of it. She looked concussed, to be honest. And if this was just her selling, she did a phenomenal top-tier job, because there were many moments during this where I said, hey, this might be legit. She truly may be concussed. It was so sudden, the stoppage of this match, and she didn't really want any help outside of, Indy Hartwell. She didn't want the referee or the medical staff, the whole team that came out post-match to help her walk back. She wanted to walk back on her own, and so didn't want to receive any kind of medical attention. So we'll see what happens. If this is all part of storyline, so be it, just proving Xia Li's viciousness and stuff like that, which we've seen many times before. Even during her time with NXT, we saw this very vicious heel side of her, which I certainly didn't think got enough momentum. Certainly haven't seen it on the main roster enough as well, but we'll see what happens with these two, and certainly with Candice LeRae, if it is a legitimate injury, speedy recovery. And if it's just storyline, well, then Candice LeRae, you did one hell of a job out there. You made me a believer, and probably many others as well. So now we're backstage. Jey Uso gives Sami Zayn a pep talk, even a hug. How about that? We have an interview set up for Jey Uso, ready to take place. Sami shakes Jey's hand, then he leaves. And Jey says he's going to slide on Finn Balor soon. Zayn's going to handle his business tonight, and Cody Rhodes is going to handle his business at Crown Jewel on Saturday. But he's thinking about getting the tag titles back with Cody Rhodes. It's a short reign. What was it, 8-9 days, if that? And so that was pretty much that as far as that segment was concerned. Now, this next bit, I was a very, very big fan of. The Scottish Warrior, Drew McIntyre. This video package, phenomenally done. All legitimate, real-life stuff. And it kind of takes me back in a much different way, of course, to AEW Dynamite. Last week, when there was a video package for Wardlow, right? It was fantastic, talking about MJF and how frustrated he was with a lot of real life events that took place in his career. And so much like that, that was very similar with Drew McIntyre, right? This was an incredible promo package. He talks about his career and the ups and downs, namely becoming a WWE champion at WrestleMania 36 versus Brock Lesnar in 2020, at the Performance Center in front of no fans during the whole COVID era, defending that title Again, pandemic era, no live audience, of course, just a bunch of screens surrounding the area. And then he mentions his chance at redemption finally last September at Clash at the Castle versus Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. And Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline cost him his opportunity. Now, personally, from my standpoint, that was the only time during Roman Reigns' 3 years as champion that I actually rooted against Roman Reigns. And I believe the right man would have been crowned, that being Drew McIntyre. I thought this was certainly Drew's for the taking. So did he. So did many other fans. And I thought it was the perfect opportunity. Never mind Cody Rhodes. Never mind Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens or all these other guys that went up against Roman. It's no knock to them. I just thought Drew was the guy. And not just because he was robbed of that WrestleMania 36 opportunity in front of a live audience, in front of thousands and thousands of fans, and that it happened in a performance center with nobody there except the camera crew, pretty much, right? And production staff. But to be honest with you, I thought he should have won at Clash of the Castle, but so be it. It's been a great reign from Roman, but I wish he was booked more often because he's taking way too much time off, in my opinion. Not to say he doesn't deserve it, but anyway, that's just my bit. So this whole Drew segment was fantastic again. Drew looks ahead to his World Heavyweight Championship match, though, this Saturday at Crown Jewel against Seth Rollins. And so he's ready for him, and he's ready to redeem himself in one way or another. If it's not to take down Roman Reigns for that title, then he's going to do so, he says, up against Seth Rollins. And so we'll see. So Seth Rollins comes out. He's in the ring. He says he's feeling like getting loose out here tonight, and he's graciously agreed to beat the bejesus out of Judgment Day's bag boy, JD McDonagh, tonight in preparation for his title match on Saturday, again, against Drew McIntyre. He's going to say this as respectfully as he can after hearing what Drew had to say just a few minutes ago. Boo freaking who. That's all he had to say about that. He calls McIntyre a big Scottish baby and says we were all suffering in 2020 in some way, fighting our battles. There were people out there who had it a lot worse than Drew McIntyre. Didn't know when they were going to get their next paycheck, their next batch of groceries. Some of them lost loved ones. So sorry you didn't get to win the WWE Championship the way you dreamt it. So get in line with guys like Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes, guys who won't ask for any pity. But he will say this: Drew was a hell of a champion, and if he wins, he'll be the first man to shake his hand and call him champ, just like he did in 2020. That was, again, Drew's first opponent when he won his title back then. They made mention of. But he's not the same guy he's beat back then. He's not the Messiah. He's not the architect. And there's a reason they sing his song. Now, towards the end of this segment, which was very good as well, he was then attacked by what would be his opponent for the scheduled matchup. JD McDonagh blindsided Rollins, again, leading to their matchup at the start of the 10 o'clock hour. So we had Seth Rollins going up against JD McDonagh, again, the unofficial member of Judgment Day. And we come to find out that this is Seth's first singles match on Raw in 4 months. But as surprising as that was, I guess it wasn't, not to be completely funny. But that's because every week since the spring, there's been a 4-man, 6-man, 8-man, blue man group. It's been crazy. It's whatever group of baby faces they could find, they would then, of course, put up against the Judgment Day, and it was every week. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, of course, Seth Rollins involved in a lot of these bouts as well, even Shinsuke Nakamura, I believe, before he turned heel. So it was just always at some point in time where enough is enough. Long story short, you always knew that Judgment Day in some capacity would be in the main event of Monday Night Raw for not just weeks at a time, but months. So that being said, I'm not completely surprised that Seth hasn't had a singles match on Raw in 4 months. So late in the match, McDonagh hits Seth with a vicious headbutt. Spanish Fly, Rollins would not stay down. Seth then escapes out of a powerbomb, lifts JD up for his own powerbomb, turning it into a buckle bomb to JD McDonagh. Rollins up top, but Damian Priest makes his way out with his Money in the Bank briefcase, senior Money in the Bank. Is he going to cash in? I highly doubted it, which didn't take place. Spoiler. For those that didn't see Monday Night Raw. Then we see a frog splash reversed into a small package for 2, which eventually led to a pedigree by Rollins. Seth Rollins ends up winning this match with his blackout curb stomp, and that was pretty much it. In the post-match, Rollins and Priest exchanged words by the commentary table, and in short, Rollins told Priest not to waste his time and his cash-in on him. So he said it 2 or 3 times, reiterating it to Damian Priest, basically burning it into his head, saying, don't even try bringing that senior Money in the Bank purple briefcase my way because it's not going to end successfully. And To be honest with you, I don't think he's going to have a successful cash in, regardless who he cashes in on for Damian Priest. Certainly, if it's against Roman or Seth or whomever, I really don't see that taking place. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, and maybe there's a new champion in the meantime. Not so much on Roman's behalf, but maybe Seth does drop in the near future to maybe Drew McIntyre or whomever. But I'm not so sure about that. So now we're backstage with Adam Pearce and Ricochet. Now, Adam Pearce offers to make up what happened to Ricochet with Dom Mysterio with the number one contenders match for the Intercontinental Championship, but Ricochet says he's got a bone to go pick first. Now, of course, he's referring to the initial opening match of the night where Ricochet lost that match to Dom Mysterio due to the cheating of Rhea Ripley and, of course, JD McDonagh with the outside interference. And now we're also backstage. Adam Pearce has Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. This is one of my favorite parts of Monday Night Raw that wasn't a match. And, you know, Chelsea Green came dressed as Bret the Hitman Hart, and Piper Niven was just as good, actually probably better than even Chelsea Green's outfit. She was Jim the Anvil Neidhart, even with the fake chest hair coming out. So, I mean, these two were fantastic. Just when I thought they couldn't do any better last week as Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf on NXT Halloween Havoc Night 1, this without question tops it. I mean, can you even really compare? The Hart Foundation, good stuff. So Chelsea was complaining to Pierce, tells him he's got a lot on his plate and that he really can't, be dealing with them right now. And then this was the third and final straw for Adam Pearce. He's backstage, and Ivar and Valhalla approach him. Ivar wants an Intercontinental Championship match, which regardless of what was going on with this segment specifically, to find that out is great, because I was just speaking last Monday on my Raw review of how great it is that WWE, and even you see in AEW too, it's so nice to see people that are in a tag team, especially when their partner's injured, to get a push, still getting that opportunity still. So Eric's supposed to be out for a very long time. I believe it's an undisclosed injury. And so Ivar isn't at home or on the shelf in the meantime. Not only is he actively wrestling on Monday Night Raw, but now he has an opportunity for an Intercontinental Championship number one contender spot. So I think that's fantastic. So we find that out. They leave, and Pierce, for the second consecutive week, says he needs a drink. So I guess this is going to be an ongoing thing. I don't mind. I'm sure he might even get his very own T-shirt on WWE Shop if this keeps up at this pace. We also found out, this was the moment we found out that JD McDonagh and Sami Zayn will be added to the Crown Jewel event this Saturday in Saudi Arabia. And I believe that is the only pre-show match that we're going to be getting. So that should also be a good one. So here we had a Becky Lynch backstage segment. She went on to say if someone was going to take the NXT Women's Championship from her, it needed to be someone passionate like Lyra Valkyria. But she's not afraid of losing, and it doesn't keep her down, which is why in 42 days, she defended her title more times than Rhea Ripley or Roman Reigns has all year. Now, there must be something about those RR words, Roman Reigns, Rhea Ripley. I don't know. Maybe they're allowed to defend their title clearly whenever they feel like it. But anyway, she said it before. She'll say it again. She doesn't need the title. The title needs her. Now, suddenly, Xia Li confronts Becky for what I feel is the third or fourth consecutive week. In weeks prior, Becky Lynch actually had the NXT Women's Championship on her shoulder. Now, I don't know what Xia Li would want to do with Becky at this moment in time, being she doesn't have a title to go after. Maybe she just wants Becky in general. So anyway, Xia Li confronts Becky and asks if she's scared of her. Lynch says if she wants a fight, they can do it here and now. Xia then says she does, but on her time. Then Becky was funny. She says to the interviewer, I forget who it was, she's been doing this for 3 weeks. When exactly is her time? She didn't want to do it when I was champion. Now I'm not champion, but she still wants to fight, but it's on her time. And in her doing so, it cost her an opportunity at that NXT Women's Championship, but it seems sooner than later, maybe these two will actually cross paths in a wrestling ring and finally let the bell ring and see who the better woman is on that given night. So, of course, it couldn't be a Halloween-themed episode without having a trick or street fight. I mean, that's classic, right? It's like a Miracle on 34th Street fight as well. So here we had Chelsea Green, or better known as Bret the Hitman Hart, going up against Natalya. Now, of course, Chelsea Green was dressed as Bret Hart, being that she's going up against a member of the Neidhart family in Natalya. And then Natalya, she was dressed up as a variation of a Catwoman / dominatrix. She had like a whip or something with her. And then Natalya is certainly the cat lady. She has plenty of her own at home, so we could understand the cat reference. And anyway, one half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champs makes her way out. Well, they both made their way out, of course, but Chelsea Green was the only one fighting and made her way out with Piper Niven. So we had Bret Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the Hart Foundation. Again, they looked fantastic. Actually coming out to the Hart Foundation theme music, I believe it was. And again, they did a fantastic job last week. Little Red Riding Hood, Big Bad Wolf, that was great, but this obviously topped it, at least for me personally. I was a big fan of the Hart Foundation growing up. So anyway, Chelsea pretends to give her sunglasses away to a kid in the front row, much like Brett always used to do. However, decided to yank them back, typical heel fashion. And Chelsea Green is just so good. Again, I've said it before. She's one of those people, with or without gold. She is made for television. So whether it's backstage segments, interviews, of course, wrestling matches, I'm here for Chelsea Green all the way. No doubt about it. So let's pick up here during a funny moment. Chelsea picks up a pumpkin on the outside. It was on the table right by the commentary table. And she picks up this pumpkin, and who's beneath it but Nikki Cross? It was just her head. It was very spooky. And, of course, that threw Chelsea off. She was underneath it. And she ends up, basically fumbling the pumpkin, and it lands on her head. So it lands on her head. She ends up stumbling around, runs into the ring post. And Natalya takes full advantage and smashes her face into the table. Green puts her into the steps, back inside now, setting Natty up top. And Chelsea gets a bag from Piper and dumps candy corn, or shall I say, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, not Piper Niven on this given night, dumps the candy corn out in the ring. So Natty now gets under her, power bombs her into the candy corn, sharpshooter applied in the middle of the ring. I thought it was going to be over at this point in time. Piper gets up on the apron, running interference, and Natalya breaks the hold. Now, Green accidentally pies Niven, discus lariat. Chelsea takes advantage, and Chelsea Green wins by pinfall with her kill switch for the 1-2-3. And I was a little surprised, got to be honest. But speaking of WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, they have a title defense tonight on Halloween Havoc Night 2. And Chelsea Green and Piper Niven will be defending those titles against JC Jane and Thea Hale, which should be a great match. And I would not be completely surprised if they drop to those two in NXT. So here we are. It's main event time. We have Senior Money in the Bank, one half of the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions, Damian Priest, going up against Sami Zayn. This was a pretty good match. That was until Finn Balor, of course, stuck his nose in business that did not belong to him, as the Judgment Day always do. Right? It's pretty much a given at this point. So Balor got in the ring, and Dom Mysterio is able to land a cheap shot in the meantime, and both men are down and out. Jey Uso then runs down to even the score. He takes Dom and Finn out and gets in the ring. Super kick to Priest. By this point, Damian Priest wins due to the disqualification, due to Jey Uso's interference. And so at this point, post-match, Jey checks on Sami and helps him up, but Judgment Day get on both men and beat them down. Cody Rhodes suddenly emerges. He makes his way down, and he and Priest begin the fight. So now we see stereotopes from Jey and Sami to Dominik and Finn on the outside. JD McDonagh makes the save for Priest before Cody was presumably going to hit him with the crossroads on the commentary table. However, JD put himself right in the line of fire at this point. So now Sami absolutely annihilates JD McDonagh with a haluva kick. Cody then calls for JD. Zayn throws McDonagh up, crossroads into the announce desk to JD McDonagh, not once but twice. So now Damian Priest is running his mouth towards Cody Rhodes. Cody gets on the microphone to tell him he didn't go down from the chair to his leg last Monday, and he'll continue to get back up. And so that was pretty much Monday Night Raw, top to bottom. And to Crown Jewel we go, this Saturday, at least as far as the Monday Night Raw roster is concerned. Raw's finished, here we are. And I believe Friday's episode of SmackDown was pre-recorded this past Friday that we'll be seeing, obviously this Friday, the night before Crown Jewel, being that they'll all collectively be making that trip to Saudi Arabia. So they usually do that in advance. That's typical. And so that was it. So the matches we have for Monday Night Raw next week, I know we have a few that were mentioned. We're going to see Akira Tozawa going up against Shinsuke Nakamura. And then we have a fatal four-way match to determine the number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship between Ricochet, The Miz, Big Bronson Reed, and Ivar. And like I said on the last review of Monday Night Raw, they're putting this emphasis, as if we didn't know it already, in quotations. They're calling him the Big Bronson Reed, so I thought it kind of speaks for itself. But anyway, that should be a very good match. If I have to pick a favorite in that match right now, I would go for Big Bronson Reed getting the victory here. But personally, I'm going to go with somebody who I think is the dark horse in this match, even though he's a big boy as well. But being that he's coming from a tag team situation, I'm going to go with the Viking Raiders, Ivar. I'm personally pulling for Ivar in that match. I'm not even going to make a prediction on the other match between Akira Tozawa and Shinsuke Nakamura. I think we all know where that's headed. Nakamura for the win, that's for certain. And as I promised at the start of this show, I would briefly go over the card for tonight's episode of Halloween Havoc Night 2. Looking to be very good. 7-match card. And, of course, Crown Jewel taking place this Saturday in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So let's start real quick with tonight's card for Halloween Havoc. We have the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament final match. We have Kalani Jordan versus Lola Vice. That's going to be a good one. Again, I promised that I wasn't going to make predictions, but as I mentioned last week, I believe on the NXT review, I do see Lola Vice winning this because Elektra Lopez is going to get involved. That's for sure. Typical heel fashion, right? But I'm pulling for Kalani in that one. Then we have Mr. Stone, Robert Stone, going up against Braun Breaker. Then we have a spin the wheel, make the deal, tables, ladders, and scares match. The Creed brothers pulling double duty. They fought on Raw. They're fighting on NXT. Brutus and Julius going up against Angel Garza, Humberto Carrillo. Then we have a singles match for the NXT North American Championship. Dirty Dominik Mysterio. Of course, Mommy will be ringside. Rhea Ripley going up against Nathan Frazier. He too pulling double duty, Raw then NXT. And the third team or person that'll be pulling double duty, Raw and NXT as well, for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Chelsea Green, Piper Niven going up against Chase University's Thea Hale and JC Jane. Another singles match in the women's division, Tiffany Stratton versus Fallon Henley. That should be good. And like I said last week, we got to see Fallon Henley on that first episode of Halloween Havoc dress as Tiffany Stratton. And I'm really hoping, there's a part of me that's hoping she dresses up as Tiffany Stratton for the second consecutive week for this match. It would be great. She looked just like Tiffany Stratton and sounded like her as well. And then this one I'm definitely looking forward to the most, which I presume would be the main event for Halloween Havoc Night 2. And that is a singles match for the NXT Championship. Ilya Dragunov defending his title against Carmelo Hayes. This is Hayes Dragunov Part 3. Great American Bash we saw went to Hayes. No Mercy went to Dragunov. September 30th? Yeah, so last month. And now we get this third and final meeting of the two. The first two are fantastic, and I'm sure this will deliver as well. So that should be very good. So that's Halloween Havoc. And now let's jump over to this Crown Jewel card real quick. Again, the more I was looking at the match lineup on Monday Night Raw, when they briefly went over all the contests, I was like, wow, one's better than the next. Like this is unbelievable, this card, especially with Survivor Series just a few weeks after this. So for that pre-show match that was made on Monday Night Raw, Sami Zayn going up against JD McDonagh, that will be good. And we have a singles match for the World Heavyweight Championship, Seth freaking Rollins defending against Drew McIntyre. We have that fatal five-way match for the Women's World Championship, Rhea Ripley defending against Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, Raquel Rodriguez. Then we have the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. That's right, Roman Reigns has decided he made some room on his schedule to show up and defend his title as well, so that's a rarity. Roman defends against LA Knight, of course, Paul Heyman in Roman's corner. A lot of people pulling for LA Knight. His merchandise has been flying off the shelves past several months, better part of this year. A top seller as well. So I don't know, though. I have a hard time believing Roman's going to be dethroned. I don't think that's going to be the case, but we'll see what happens there. Then we have a singles match for the WWE United States Championship. Rey Mysterio defending his title against Logan Paul. And we have a singles match, Cody Rhodes going up against Damian Priest. Another singles match, John Cena versus Solo Sikoa. Very happy for Solo Sikoa. That's fantastic. He's just been on the main roster a little bit over a year, and he's already going to in a pay-per-view capacity against John Cena. That's fantastic. I couldn't be more happy for him, honestly. And then the eighth and final match of the night, we have the WWE Women's Championship on the line. We have Io Sky defending her title, probably with Damage Control in her corner, Bayley and Dakota Kai versus Bianca Belair. So I have a hard time. I have a hard time believing that Io Sky will not retain. Not to say that Bianca can't win this one. Bianca just returned a week ago or so, especially with Damage Control in Io's corner. It's a numbers game. That is, unless Bayley accidentally or on purpose screws it up for Io, and Bianca somehow wins. I'm not opposed to Bianca winning. Bianca's a great champion, of course. So we'll see what happens there. But out of the title, there are 8 matches. I think 5 are title matches. If there's one championship that will change hands, in my opinion, this Saturday, I think the United States Championship may change hands. I could see Logan Paul winning that. I know it's very surprising against a Hall of Famer, a legend in the game, Rey Mysterio, dropping to Logan Paul. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. And with all that being said, pro wrestling is alive and well, and I'm looking forward to all of it. I really am. So folks, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel here. Be sure to like this video, comment. I love hearing from you guys, especially comment your Halloween costumes today, especially if it's pro wrestling. I want to know. So as always, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I am your host, Pat Deneen, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.